Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is with very great pleasure that I welcome you here to Clifton College for our Youth Education Debate 2014. Let's begin with some very simple housekeeping. If I could ask members of our audience, please, to turn off your cell phones, or at least put them onto airplane mode. And also you'll see we have a number of cameras here officially filming the debate. Please do not take your own private cam of this. Okay, we will edit the film, and we prefer not to have other delegates aside. They know they're going on YouTube through the Film Academy. We don't want other clips popping up from other angles and things like that, if you don't mind, please. It's my very, very, very great pleasure to welcome our delegates here to the stage. I'm going to introduce them very quickly, and then we'll move on and give them the opportunity to make an opening statement. I'm going to start to my furthest right from the ruling party, the ANC, Mr. Ntuthuko Makomboti. He is the president of SASCO, the South African Students' Congress, which is a body allied with the ANC, also a member of the ANC Youth League, and he will be speaking for them and the ANC this evening. Next to him is Ndeni, a friend of Clifton from Underberg. He's a community leader and member, very interested in politics and education, and he'll be bringing a slightly different perspective on things this evening. And we thank you for stepping in at the last moment. And then next to him, Mbali Ntuli. She is from the Democratic Alliance, and she's a DA youth leader. We are hoping that in the next 15 or 20 minutes, our friend from the EFF, Jackie Shandu, will arrive, and if that happens, we'll take a brief pause to mic them up, and we'll take the debate from there. Just to explain a little bit more to our audience what the purpose is this evening. You are not going to be seeing a US-style presidential debate where I grill the candidates and put them under the microscope, things like that. That is not the purpose of this evening. It is an opportunity for the delegates to debate amongst themselves, and we might see some of that. There was some already as we were preparing, and very much an opportunity for us to ask questions about where the parties stand on various issues and the practical measures that they're going to be using to take South Africa forward. I'm going to ask some questions. We're going to invite members of the audience to ask some questions as well. In terms of the length, we are going to play it by ear. We're hoping to finish in around about an hour and 20 minutes or something like that. We will see how we go. May not go that long. We may have to cut things short. I have gone through the question and topic areas with the delegates, so hopefully there won't be any surprises. Let's begin. We're going to start by allowing each of the members on stage here to give a brief introduction, tell us who they are from their side, and give a brief statement about what their party believes about education. So let's stick with the order I established earlier for now, and I'd like to ask my comrade from the ruling party, the ANC, Mr. Makomboti, a brief introduction, please. What have you got to say?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity that you have given us today to come and speak about our manifesto as the African National Congress. The African National Congress is an organization which is 102 years old, which liberated South Africa, participated in leading the liberation of South Africa. When we took over the education system in South Africa, we took over from more than 4 education systems from apartheid. And as we could have seen and noticed over the past 20 years, we've been able to stabilize the education system in South Africa to one single education system, which of course faces difficulties, but we are committed to working around those. And we have made significant progress over the past 20 years to ensure that we increase the access of those who were disenfranchised during the period of apartheid. So more and more black students have been able to access education and access education for free. We've got a number of students, about 7 million young people, who go to no-fee schools in South Africa, who would have not been able to get an opportunity of education because they were disenfranchised historically. And we've also been able to ensure that as part of ensuring that as a child is able to learn at school, they are able to have some food at the table. We've ensured that we introduce the school nutrition scheme, which caters for over 9 million young people in South Africa. We know the challenges that are facing the education system in South Africa. We have introduced what we call ANA, the Annual National Assessments, which really tell us directly where the challenges are. And we've noted the challenges that we face from the transition from foundation level of basic education at grade 3 to come to the intermediate level of grade 4. Though there are challenges of literacy and numeracy there, we've seen major challenges of dropout rates of young people at grade 7 level up to grade 11. These are things that we have already assessed and been able to identify and been open to the country about those challenges, and we know exactly what we need to do to fix those problems. So we believe that South Africans should really give us another mandate to be able to implement what we have already started in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then, please. Denny, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself and discuss your interest in these areas that we're discussing this evening.
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to tell you a bit about myself. Does this thing work?
I think I can hear you.
Okay. I'm just going to tell you a bit about myself. Okay, my name is Undeni Zimanda from Anderburg. I run a supermarket in Anderburg, a local supermarket. So, I care about my community a lot, which is why I've gotten involved in mostly education and politics. I'm really passionate about my community. And I can hear what the ANC has got a lot of good stories to say, but I've seen in Anderburg those stories become destroyed into nothing. In the last few days, we had splash fame. Do some of you know what splash fame is, eh? A group of policemen got drunk and beat up a young man and died. They have not been in jail. The next morning they came shopping through the store like nothing has happened. From a Monday to a Friday, from all the schools that are in Anderburg, they all come to the store that I manage, and they all get food from there. Because all the ladies that have got tenders to supply food to these schools have never ever come through shopping to buy groceries for these schools. So they come and so they get our day-old bread and day-old rolls. That sort of thing. So I'm passionate about education, and I would love to help any political party, which is why I don't have a political hub that is as passionate about our people and fixing our education system. And another reason why I came here, and is because it's so absolutely so refreshing to finally hear the DA and the ANC debate about something that actually matters and not Nkandla for the first time. We have been debating about Nkandla, which I think is a non-issue. We all have forgotten our health system, we've all have forgotten our education system. We've forgotten so many things that actually matter. Every newspaper, if it's not dominated by Oscar, is dominated by Nkandla. Things that really don't affect the small man on the street. Things that don't affect our small communities if you care about your small community. Because we can only start fixing these things if we fix them one at a time. And we can fix the big ones. And that's how I'm involved here in politics and education.
Some strong feelings there, and definitely some of those topic areas will come up later, and there'll be an opportunity for people to respond to some of the things that you've said. Mbali from the Democratic Alliance, if you will introduce yourself and tell us your party's position, please.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to say good evening to you guys, and I'm really happy to see so many young people that have come out for the debate, because I think that whilst you guys are at a school that can afford you to have quality education, once you leave Clifton, the majority of you, when you go to universities, are going to actually realize the dire straits that our education system is in, and what other young students who are your age have actually been experiencing, and why it's so critically important that we speak about education, because without it, I think we all realize that you really don't have a future in South Africa. So I'm going to touch a little bit about the DA, and then I want to actually just talk a little bit about what my colleague on the side of me has said. And the first thing that I can say as a Democratic Alliance is that we understand that the ANC has done a lot in terms of allowing access to education in our country. We know where we come from as a country in terms of our past. But even now, 20 years on, that access hasn't resulted into actual quality education. Which is why in the Democratic Alliance, when we took over the Western Cape, we made sure that we took our education system very seriously, and we started with the basics. And basic things like making sure that your teachers are in classrooms on time, making sure that we aren't hamstrung by unions that are constantly making our children be a political football when they actually want to achieve things with the ANC instead of being in the classrooms. Making sure that those schools have actual resources, actual facilities, so they're able to compete with students that are across the world in terms of being able to have the same quality of education. Making sure that when we speak about quality education, we're also speaking about making those teachers be held to account. So we want to see what are the school principals doing, what are the performance rates of those schools, what are the matric pass rates. Because you can have access to education, but you could be in a mud school and you could be learning nothing. So those are the kinds of things that we need to be saying as a Democratic Alliance, as Young People in South Africa, we want to make sure are actually being rolled out to all young people. So that's the basics of our offer when it comes to education. So we get those kinds of basics right, and then we start looking at things like the curriculum and making sure that we are actually able to have a curriculum that allows our young people to be competitive in the world. So at the global rate of which we are actually, advancing in the world, it really doesn't help us when our government hasn't sat down with, one, our universities, and two, our businesses to say, what are the skill shortages? What should we be teaching our children? What will make them competitive? What are the new things that are coming up in the world that will put them on level with those people or above them? So that's really where we take our education policy from. We said we need to firstly get students into schools, good quality schools, with food, with teachers that are there that are teaching them the right things. And we need to make sure that our curriculum and the management of those teachers is actually done right. Because I think if any of you have ever experienced having a bad teacher who hasn't been fired, you know how much it can set you back in your studies. So that's really important to us. And then I want to speak a little bit about the issue of Nganja, just because it came up now. And to say that whilst it might be something that has been in the news for a long time, Nganja is very symbolic of what has gone wrong in our country. And that there is rampant corruption that is actually taking money away from young people being able to get these very things that I'm talking about. So Nganja might be boring because we keep reading about it, but if we don't keep hammering on about what it actually means if we have 246 million sitting in somebody's house, what that means is that there are students that can't go to university, it means that there are students that aren't getting food at school, it means that there are students that aren't being able to access tertiary and other opportunities that should be helping them. So Nganja and all the issues of corruption that come up are essential to young people, because at the end of the day, when you try to get to university, somebody's going to tell you that because you are a white male, you can't make it because we don't actually have the kind of schemes that will allow you to be under there. And so it's a very big and important issue.
Thank you. I believe I have to give a round of applause to you. I desperately don't want to get mired down on this issue, but I think it's fair there were two pretty impassioned attacks their level at the ANC. So Mark, a very brief response from you, please.
I think maybe let's deal with the elephant in the room, Ghana, and maybe put this issue aside. We quite frankly don't agree that 246 million, whatever, should be spent in the house of the president. And we've said this quite clearly. Maybe let's repeat this again. We don't really agree to this. But we believe that we must not use issues as political footballs. Let's really deal with the real issues. What is Uganda? I agree with Mbali that Uganda symbolizes some ill in our society. Uganda is just but a drop in the ocean of the corruption, the sea of the corruption that is in South Africa. And this corruption is not only in the public sector, it's not only in government. That's what the DA doesn't tell us. Yeah. That there's a lot of corruption. Yes, very much. There's a lot of corruption happening in society. And why? Corruption is a byproduct of the system that we have in society. Capitalism, that's what no one wants to enter into this type of debate. Unfortunately, the EFF is not here yet. Probably will agree with me, but not lately when Julius Malema says that wearing Louis Vuitton shoes is inspiring the poor. How many Ugandas would we have under Julius Malema, for instance? I wanted to ask the EFF. But I wanted to say that we need to look at Uganda as a problem that we really need to deal with in society as a whole. The whole question of greed in society, the whole question of corruption. How is it acceptable in opulence? How is it acceptable in South Africa, for instance? Let's come back over here. That you have got schools that are so resourced like the one we have today. And then you've got schools in Khayelitsha and Gugulet in the Western Cape that are dilapidated. That's the type of opulence that is there in our society that we need to deal with. We must not look at an issue and only individualize it to a particular person called Jacob Zuma. We need to look at corruption within its full context so that we are able to really deal with it and really change the economic system of the country. That's what we need to do. If we're not going to do that, we're just putting a plaster in the room. That's right.
Thank you. I think we've given a fair. I'm not saying that issue is done, but it's done for this evening. Thank you very, very much.